Hi everyone, this is Emily Bowen-Moore. This is for Journalism 273 in the Meek School of Journalism and New Media at the University of Mississippi. This tutorial is going to help you in terms of placing your copy in your magazine layout. This is one of the most efficient ways to make your copy work, and it's much easier to edit your copy when you start your program. So and you are, setting up a document in InDesign. You want to, it just depends on how you're setting that up. We definitely are going to have letter size paper, but we are putting them as facing pages to create spreads. So a spread is basically 2 pages treated as one layout. So that's how we're looking at that. Also, it's going to be in picas. If we were dealing in the professional world with magazines, we would be working in picas as our units. So this is going to follow those guidelines. And I'm going to go ahead and name this as it's supposed to be for the project. Now, we've got the size of the letter here in picas. We're going to keep the orientation vertical. We're going to click facing pages, and we're going to have 4 pages, but what's going to give us the double page spread is starting with page 4. So basically that's going to put 2 pages side by side. If we leave this at 1, I'll show you how that looks. That's going to give us 1 page, then a double page spread, and then another page. So this would be 1, 2, 3, 4 in our layout. If we do this differently, if you want double page spread layout for both of the spreads, then we want to start with page 4. That's going to bump that 4th page up to the top next to the first page. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to re-establish this since I've already got it as a file name. So I'm going to set this document up to have 2 double pages side by side. So we're still got that clicked for facing pages. I'm going to also go in and adjust my bleed. I would like to add 1/4 inch bleed. So remember your quotation marks. If you're not sure how to convert that, it's 1 pica 6 points. So that's our bleed. And since we had already started this document and we want to add our columns in, I'm going to go up to Layout and Margins and Columns here. And we want to have custom margins here. And for this purpose, I'm just going to do something quickly. Just remember your inside margins need to be a little bit bigger than your other ones. We are designing for a thicker magazine, so if this were the binding in the middle of the magazine, on a thicker magazine, we would need a little more space here in the gutter. And we're going to do 12 columns for each page. And your gutter width is generally 1 pica, or you can do 1 pica 2 points. I'll do that just to show you what that looks like. So now we have, this is what it should look like here. So I'm going to go through this one more time with the new document so there's no confusion. So I'm going to go to print. I'm selecting letter. We've got letter size paper, orientation vertical, 4 pages. Start with page 4. Click facing pages. We've got 12 columns. We've got 1 pica or 1 pica 2 points for our column gutter, either one. And I'm going to go ahead and set this up to be a little bigger on the inside margin. 4 picas is plenty there. I don't know why it keeps jumping on me. 4P0. And our bleed would be 1P6. And that's it. Okay, so now we want to start with page 4. There we go. Okay, so now we have two double page spreads with our columns in place, and we have our bleed margin in place and our text margins customized here with a little bit more space on the inside. So when you get ready to lay out your copy and your frames for your photographs, let's say we had initially a frame for our opening page. Let's say we had an image taking up a large portion of this double page spread. Make sure that you place your images as you've been instructed throughout the course. You're creating a frame and then you're placing the image in that frame. Now, if this is an image that you've already adjusted, it should be fine, but make sure you adjust all your images in Photoshop before you place them. Make sure they're the right color mode, CMYK. Make sure that they are the appropriate size and resolution as to what you are putting in your layout. So in this case, our image would need to be at least, I would say, at least 15 inches wide here, because this is 17. So you want it a little bigger than what you need in your layout. Now when you get ready to lay your copy, your body copy, this is the most easy and most efficient way to go about this. So the first thing I'm going to do is go to my content, the Word document where your sample article is, and in this case I'm using the mocktail just for the demonstration. And I'm just going to copy the content itself, what's going to be in the body copy, not the headline, not the deck, not the sidebar or any of the recipes here. I'm just getting the main content here. And not all of this is going to fit in 4 pages. It's going to actually continue. So we'll get to that in a moment. But I'm going to copy this, Command C, and then I'm going to come back in my layout and I'm going to lay my first I'm going to lay my first column here, and I'm going to reduce this just a little bit because I want this to align with the image. So I'm going to lay this first text box here. So say I wanted this to go under the image, and so I'm giving a little space there, and when I do that first text box, now I'm going to paste that copy in that box. Now I'm getting the pink because it's not recognizing my font, so I'm just going to choose something for this sample here, this demonstration. And notice I've got the overset type error in this first box. Well, right now that's what we want because we want to continue this copy in more text boxes. So I'm going to go back to my selection tool and I'm going to select the plus sign. And when I go to drag out another box, it's going to give me pop-up guides to let me know when I have an exact height and width as my previous one. So as soon as that happens, it's going to continue placing the copy that I had taken from the article. Now, this is, there we go, trying to get this the exact width here. There we go. And then if I want to continue this copy, let's say we were continuing this on to the jump spread, and we're just going here, and now we're making it just a little longer. We would still continue this wherever you intend to have your columns. And again, it'll let you know when your columns are lined up and you've got the exact same width and so on. But you can always check. I usually put it on top of another one. So just to make sure you've got the exact widths here. And now, and actually these are different, so let's make these a little wider. There we go. Okay. So we've got this, and you're going to always have, since your content won't fit on 4 pages, you're going to have an overset type error on that 4th page. So say you have all of this in place on the 2nd spread. It's okay to have the little plus sign on that last text box. That's the only error that you will have that will be okay to have. So we're imagining this article continuing somewhere in the magazine, but you are only responsible for the first 4 pages of the article for this assignment, okay? So just keep that in mind. So now that we've placed it, the reason we wanted to place the copy in that way is because now when I go back to edit this and to basically create all my stylizations and all my assignments for my size and my leading and my indentions and all of that good stuff, notice when I select it, it selects everything. So if you try and set this up in separate text boxes, I mean these are separate but it's a continual text, but if you try and do it in separate altogether text boxes, you're going to be editing them individually and separately. So this is going to save you a lot of time doing it this way. There's always students who don't do it this way and choose to do it the hard way, but just so you know, they really struggle. So I'm going to select this now, and now we can alter this and modify it. So I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger so you can see what I'm doing. So since this is our opening paragraph here, if I look up here, I'm using the Baskerville just for the demo. But the 12-point type, that's pretty big for magazine copy, for the body copy. So I'm just going to reduce this down to 10 points. And another thing I'm going to do, I'm going to make my window, my paragraph window visible here. So I'm also going to click this hyphenation off. That's going to make your text jump. So you always want to do that early. So you haven't, if you do all your stylizations and you have everything all perfectly lined up and then you go and do this, it's going to make all your text jump and you're going to basically have to redo all of that. So do this early, you know, select that hyphenation or take it off. It's going to probably be selected by default. And now we can adjust these spacing and things like that. So right now it's 10 points and we have our leading at 12. So I'm going to go up to 13 on that so we can try and have a little space between things. And you want to be careful with other things too, such as you don't want widows, and where you have new paragraphs, and in this case you've got extra subheaders, so you may want to stylize those differently. You know, you could always go up or make it a color, or you could have it bold and italics, you know, something that makes it stand out. But whatever you assign that, make sure it's consistent with all the other subheaders. In this case, you've got a few subheaders. So I don't know what I had this one, 14, 13. So this is going to adjust. And if you had, you know, the space between your paragraphs, if you want to alter that, if that's a lot of space or you want a little more or a little less, then you can always put your cursor there and then drag and select a sliver of that, and then you can adjust the leading. So say we wanted 9 points between our paragraphs. You could do that, but make sure that's consistent and done everywhere, okay? And in addition, we want to be able to indent new paragraphs. So let's say you had that as a separate header, and we carry this on to the next line on these paragraphs. Let's say you wanted to indent this paragraph. In your paragraph window, the second window or little cell down on the left is your indentation window. The first line left indent here. And the rule of thumb here is to indent no more than what you have in the size of the type. So if our size is 10 points for this type, then I don't want to go any more than 10 points in my indentation. So I'm just going to go 10 points here. And you can see that that's a nice indentation, and that works really well. So you would do that consistently for every paragraph. So those things need to stay consistent and work consistently. Now for widows and things like that, there's many things you can do. The first and foremost, it's probably the easiest solution, would be to go up to the previous line and just carry one word down to that next line. But it may leave your rag line kind of off if you do that. So other things that you can do is select the type. You can adjust the size of the type. So say instead of 10 points, I might go 10 and a half. And that might change things. But see, that's going to make that orphan come up here at the top of this paragraph. So that may not be a good idea. Another solution would be to scale the tracking, adjust that. So if I could just up that to 10 and just separate the characters just a little. This is not much, not very noticeable. And then you can adjust that way. And it will work better. And also you want to look for your baselines. So in this case, this is helping our baselines line up. So another reason we want to put in the copy this way is because you can see our baselines are lining up really well. And even at the bottom here, you can see that we are all lined up. So all of these lines at the bottom are lined up. They're lined up at the top here. And you can make that work. Now once you adjust the size here and some of your placement, that might change a little bit. So you'll just have to work with it as best you can to make it uniform and working well for you. See, that kind of brought that down, so we may have to adjust that to make it work. So in this case, we had bold italic, we had made that pink. We're going to make that, let's make that pink, just for some uniformity. And that was 9 points. And what we can do here is just adjust the leading. Or you could do some other things. So say if we kept that leading, we could also work with some of the type here and make it carry on. So I could reduce the box here. And so now it would be a little better, but we would definitely have to make this work. Here, let me get rid of that. Let's try this instead. Make that header bigger since that's leading to the word of mouth and all of that. Yes. And sometimes if it's a little off, like this is a little off to this, sometimes it's not as noticeable. But when you look at the print view, you can see if you can see a big difference there, it may be a problem visually. So always try and get these bottom lines to line up in your copy. And also if you are putting your folio down here at the bottom, if it's right underneath that text line, so say this is, let's just say this is page 23. Just make sure you have enough space between that and the bottom of your copy. If this copy were on top here or flushing against the text margin on the right, it would be really hard to make that work. So I would probably have to adjust by selecting all and then bringing them up a little. And you could do that as well to make things work for you. So now when I adjust it this way, it's working a little better, but a lot of your time is going to be spent working with your copy and making it work for you, in terms of making it line up, making it unified, making it, work in terms of the flow of how the text is reading visually. Now, as far as a drop cap, you also have a drop cap setting. So if I were on this opening paragraph creating a drop cap for this S, that's also in your paragraph window. And you've got two options here. One of them is on the right, and that's how many characters that you're dropping. So in this case, I've selected just the S. If we wanted to drop the whole word, we would have 4 characters. But we're just going to do the S here. So we've got 1 character. And the left side is how many lines of type you are dropping the character. So there's 2 lines of type, 3 lines of type, 4 lines of type, just depending on how many or how big you want your drop cap there. So in this case, that's pretty big. And sometimes when you, but that's working okay because we have some pretty big headers over there. And sometimes when you create a drop cap, the words on those dropped lines will either be really close, depending on the style and design of that character. Sometimes they're really far away. So if you have to adjust that, you can just put your cursor on the top line and then just adjust your kerning. So I can bring that a little closer since it was pretty far away. If it's real close, you can click it and make it more, more space there in between. But it'll adjust all of the lines in which the drop cap is dropping. So that's how you create a drop cap there. Now, if we go to the jump spread, let's imagine you are wanting to, I'm going to show you the 2 different things you can do here with the text wrap. One of them is if you are breaking up a part of your copy with a pull quote or something like that, all you would really have to do is wrap the bounding box. So let's say we have, I'm going to center this. And I'm just going to use Arial for the pull quote. Like so. And let's say I'm going to make it part of one of these lines. Let me reduce this so you can kind of see what I'm doing. So let's say I'm wanting it the width of this column here, pretty much. And I'm going to put a ruled line on top and bottom just so I can separate it visually. And I'm going to put one right stroke assigned to it so it shows up. And so now we have something to separate that pull quote. And I'm going to select all of it by holding my shift key and clicking on each component. And now I can come down here and place it. So say I wanted it somewhere in here, even if you were breaking up 2 columns of type. So you can see where my pop-up guides show me where I'm in the middle of these 2 columns. And oops, pull that back up. So I've got my 2 ruled lines and my text box selected. So make sure your text wrap window is open. So you've got some options here, and you also have them here in your panel. But these are going to give you all of your extra options. And I'm going to show you how those are relevant in here in just a moment. This first option is wrapping around the bounding box. So for a pull quote or something like that, that's kind of what you want. So if I click that, you can see all the text is now wrapping around this. However, if you look closely, there's not any space between that. So that's what these little cells are for. It's giving yourself a margin. So again, the rule of thumb there is to go about the same as what you have your indentions. Or if you're making certain areas a certain space to keep that consistent, you would follow that setting. But I'm going to, in this case, I'm going to make it 10 points, just like my indentions there. So when we click out of that, you can see that that now we've got a little space around that pull quote. Now, if it's not working with the type very well, and the type is not wrapping around it very well, you can move it around. So if I were just to lower it a little bit, see now the type is working a little better. There's not any weird gaps or gapes between the text. It's not falling in an awkward spot. So you want to kind of test that and make sure the position of it is working visually there. Okay. So that's how you wrap a text box. Now if we were doing something, a situation where you wanted to place an image somewhere in the type and wrap the text around a contour of a bottle or glass or something crazy like that, then we would create a frame for that, just like you were placing an image. And let's say we wanted that image somewhere here, breaking up these 2 columns of copy. So I'm going to place the image. I've got an image here that I've already adjusted in Photoshop. Now keep in mind, if you're trying to follow the contour of an image, you have to take out the background in Photoshop. So I've already adjusted this image. I put it in Photoshop. I changed the color mode to CMYK. I have adjusted and turned it into a smart object and rasterized it, took out the background. Then I adjusted the size and resolution to make sure it worked in the size and area that I want to put it. And when I'm scaling it to fit my frame, remember your Command Shift keys so that it will scale proportionately. And you can still make the image bigger if you want. I'm selecting the frame and the image now. So let's say we had this image here and we wanted the type to go around it. So in this case, I've got the frame selected with the image in it. And in this case, I'm going to select a different option for my text wrap. I'm going to select Wrap Around Object Shape. But at first, it's going to wrap around the bounding box, which is not what we want. That looks horrible. But we've got some more options here. So under Contour Options, we need to select Alpha Channel. That's going to, allow the wrap to contour to the image itself. And again, just like with the pull quote, you don't have any space here between the image and the copy, and you want some space there. So it's giving you an option to create that space. So I'm going to go 10 points again on that. And as you can see, it's causing some some weird gapes here in the text. So I would need to select this and kind of move it around so that it works better for my image. So you want to make sure, again, that you are adjusting it in a way that it works visually, and you're not just left with some weird, awkward appearance in your text. Okay, but as you move the image around, the type will adjust. Okay, so that could work pretty well right there even. So that's how you would wrap text around a contour of a glass or a certain object. And that's how you do that. So when you're thinking about your custom text margins, just keep in mind with the folios, keep in mind that they need to be big enough so that if you do put your folios outside that text margin, that you have plenty of room between that and the edge of the paper. Also, if you're doing gutter credits for images or anything, you wouldn't do that on the opening page, but say you were doing that here for this image, you could easily, I'm just going to put source. So that could be really small, like 7 or 6 points. And I could use this as a gutter credit. So I could just select the text box and rotate it 90 degrees. And then just place it right outside the text margin and the gutter credit here. So that would work for my gutter credit for that image there. In some cases, if that didn't work, you could keep it, and you could place it on the image or something like that. But when you have a wrapped image, it's going to try and wrap that text box as well if you're placing a credit or even a caption on the image that's wrapped. So what you have to do is go to Object, Text Frame Options, and click Ignore Text Wrap. So now we can place that on top of that image, and it's visible. It's not wrapping around it as well. Okay? So that should get you started in your layout for your magazine, feature article spreads, and so that should help you get started in laying out your copy and things to think about there, and placing images and wrapping text around images. So good luck, and if you have questions, you're welcome to ask me. So make sure that if you're unsure of something, try and don't feel inhibited about asking me or an instructor about it before you ask too many of your classmates. Okay, so good. I look forward to seeing your work. Thanks.